A Boeing 777 cruising at 38,000 feet has tens of thousands of feet of open sky above it. Empty, blue, completely unobstructed. It will never use a single foot of it, not because it cannot climb. The engines have power to spare. The wings could lift it higher. The plane is physically capable of going up, but the sky itself stops cooperating. By the end of this, you will know exactly why every commercial flight you have ever taken topped out in the same narrow band between 35,000 and 40,000 feet, and why pushing higher is not a feature airlines are missing. It is a failure mode they are carefully avoiding. Here is the part most people get wrong. They look up at that blue and assume the sky is just sky. One big open space, getting thinner the higher you go. Predictable, uniform, forgiving. But the atmosphere is not an empty room. It is a stack of layers, each with its own personality, its own rules, its own willingness or unwillingness to let a machine survive inside it. Think of the entire atmosphere like the skin of an apple wrapped around the planet. The usable layer where commercial airliners can actually operate is a thin slice inside that skin. The rest of the sky above them might as well not exist. So the question is not why planes do not fly higher. The question is why the usable layer is so narrow. And the answer involves 4 separate problems, all converging at the same altitude. Let's start with why altitude is attractive in the first place. When an airliner climbs higher, the air around it gets thinner. Thinner air means less resistance pressing against the fuselage. Less resistance means the engines can push the plane forward using dramatically less fuel. Picture pushing a shopping cart through a swimming pool. Now, picture pushing that same cart through open air. Same cart, same effort, completely different result. That's what climbing into thinner air does for a jet. Every 1,000 feet of altitude gained, the cart gets easier to push. The fuel gauge drops more slowly, and the range gets longer. Airlines obsess over this because efficiency is money. A flight from Los Angeles to Tokyo burns roughly 30,000 gallons of jet fuel. Even a small reduction in drag at cruise altitude can save thousands of dollars per flight. Multiply that across hundreds of daily routes, and you are looking at hundreds of millions of dollars a year. So the logic seems obvious. Climb higher, save more fuel, fly cheaper, done. Except the same thin air that saves the airline money also starts breaking the airplane, quietly at first, then dramatically. A jet engine does not burn fuel by magic. It pulls in massive quantities of outside air through the front, compresses that air into a much smaller space, mixes it with fuel, ignites the mixture, and blasts the hot exhaust out the back. That exhaust is what produces thrust. The whole system depends on one thing: oxygen. The engine has to be able to inhale enough air to support combustion. No air, no fire. No fire, no thrust. Now imagine an Olympic marathon runner, sea level, full lungs, peak conditioning. Drop that same runner onto the summit of Mount Everest and ask them to sprint at full speed. Same body, same training, same lungs, but the air refuses to deliver what the muscles are demanding. That's what happens to a jet engine at extreme altitude. The engine does not shut off. It does not fail dramatically. It just quietly, gradually starts suffocating. At 40,000 feet, the air is already only about 1/4 as dense as it is at sea level. Push the same engine to 45,000 or 50,000 feet, and the oxygen available drops off a cliff. Combustion gets weaker. Thrust drops. The engine is still running, but it is running out of breath. Meanwhile, the wings are facing their own crisis, a completely different one. Wings do not hold an airplane up by being big and flat. They hold it up by manipulating airflow. As the plane moves forward, the wing slices through air and redirects it in a way that creates a pressure difference, lower pressure above the wing and higher pressure below. That pressure difference generates lift. But that whole mechanism requires air to actually exist in meaningful quantities over the wing surface. No air, no airflow. No airflow, no lift. At extreme altitude, there is barely enough air for the wing to grip. To generate the same lift, the plane has to fly much faster. And this is where the airplane walks into something that sounds like science fiction, but is one of the most studied problems in aviation. Pilots call it the coffin corner. The name is not subtle. Here is the part that should genuinely stop you. Most people assume that flying too slow is a separate problem from flying too fast. Two very different failure modes, far apart on the speedometer. At cruise altitude, that is mostly true. The plane has a comfortable range, but the higher you climb, the closer those two limits get. On the slow side, the wings need enough airflow to generate lift. Below a certain speed, the lift collapses and the plane stalls. It stops flying and starts falling. On the fast side, the plane gets close to the speed of sound. Around that speed, shock waves start forming on the wing surfaces, and the airframe experiences forces it was not designed to handle. Control surfaces stop responding properly. The aircraft can become uncontrollable. Picture a tightrope walker. At low altitude, the rope is wide and stable. He can shift his weight, take a small misstep, recover easily. As he climbs higher, the rope gets thinner, and thinner, and thinner, until at some point, there is no rope left to stand on. That is coffin corner. At around 45,000 feet for a typical airliner, the speed at which the wings stall and the speed at which the airframe enters dangerous territory are squeezing toward each other from both directions. The safe operating window shrinks toward nothing. A single gust of wind, a small altitude change, even a turn banked slightly too steeply can push the aircraft outside that shrinking window in either direction. Too slow, the wings quit. Too fast, the airframe screams. There is almost no margin for error left. This is not a theoretical problem. Accident reports include cases of jets being pushed into coffin corner by weather or pilot decisions, losing control, and not recovering. The window closed on them, and physics did the rest. But even if you could solve the engine problem and the wing problem, there is a third enemy waiting. And this one is not outside the plane. It is inside. The cabin where passengers sit is pressurized. The aircraft constantly pumps air in to maintain pressure inside, roughly equivalent to standing at 6,000 to 8,000 feet of elevation. That is why your ears pop on takeoff and landing. The system is adjusting. This pressurization is non-negotiable. Outside the fuselage at cruise altitude, the air pressure is so low that an unprotected human would lose consciousness within seconds. So the airplane is essentially a long aluminum tube full of comfortable air, flying through a region where the outside is trying to suck that air out. Every second of every flight, the plane is winning that fight by a careful margin. Picture an aluminum soda can being slowly inflated from the inside. The metal can handle some pressure. That is what it was built for. But every pound of additional pressure pushes outward on the walls, the lid, the bottom. Push too far, and the metal gives way. There is a number stamped on every aircraft design that says exactly how much pressure, differential the fuselage can safely hold. Every window, every door seal, every rivet is engineered around that number. The higher the plane climbs, the bigger that pressure difference gets. At 38,000 feet, the inside of the cabin is pushing outward against the fuselage with about 8 to 9 pounds per square inch more than the outside air. Across the surface of an entire airliner, that adds up to forces measured in millions of pounds, all trying to pull the airplane apart from the inside out. Aircraft are built to handle this, right up until they are not. Push the cabin altitude requirement higher, and the fuselage has to be built thicker, heavier, stronger. That adds weight. That kills the fuel efficiency you were trying to gain by climbing higher in the first place. The math eats itself. There is also the problem of metal fatigue. Every flight, that pressure pushes outward. Every landing, the pressure releases. Push, release, push, release. Thousands of times across the life of an aircraft. The fuselage flexes microscopically with every cycle. The higher the pressure differential, the faster the metal wears out. So here is where everything finally clicks into place. The altitude between 35,000 and 40,000 feet is not a number that got picked at random. It is not the highest the plane can go. It is the precise altitude where four completely separate problems all happen to have the same solution. The air is thin enough to dramatically reduce drag and save enormous amounts of fuel. But it is still thick enough for the engines to breathe properly. Thick enough for the wings to generate lift without flirting with coffin corner. And the pressure differential is still inside the structural envelope the fuselage was designed for. Every one of those systems has its own ceiling. And those ceilings, by complete coincidence of physics, all stack up at roughly the same altitude. Tuning an airplane to its cruise altitude is like tuning a guitar. Every string has to land in a very specific tension range. Too loose, the note collapses. Too tight, the string snaps. There is one narrow band where everything works in harmony, and that is the only place you can actually play music. The atmosphere has one tuned band. Commercial aviation lives inside it. Every Boeing, every Airbus, every long-haul carrier crossing oceans tonight is sitting in that exact same slice of sky. That altitude is not even completely fixed for a single flight. When the airplane takes off heavy with fuel, it cruises a little lower. As fuel burns and the plane gets lighter, pilots step climb to higher altitudes, chasing the most efficient slice as it shifts upward with the lighter weight. The sweet spot moves. The plane moves with it. Wind matters too. A strong tailwind at 36,000 feet might be worth more than the fuel savings of climbing to 38,000 feet. Sometimes a strong headwind at altitude pushes pilots to drop lower for cleaner air. Every flight you have ever taken has been a carefully balanced negotiation between gravity pulling down, air pressure pushing in, engines fighting for oxygen, wings clawing for lift, and a metal tube holding back forces that would tear it apart if anyone got greedy with altitude. The sky looks infinite from a window seat. The usable part of it is a single thin slice. There are aircraft that fly higher, military spy planes, certain research jets, the old Concorde when it was still flying supersonic. But every one of those aircraft made deep, expensive trade-offs to get there. Specialized engines, reinforced fuselages, pressure suits for the crew, fuel costs that would bankrupt any commercial airline. They proved it is possible to go higher. They also proved exactly why no passenger airline wants to. So the next time you look out and see nothing but blue stretching above you, you are not looking at wasted sky. You are looking at the boundary of a system already operating at the edge of what physics allows. Climb higher and the engines suffocate. Climb higher and the wings lose their grip. Climb higher and the fuselage starts pulling itself apart. The plane is not stopping short of the ceiling. It is sitting exactly on the only altitude that works. And here is the strange part nobody mentions. While the plane is sitting in that perfect slice, the air you are breathing inside the cabin did not come from a tank, and it did not come from outside. It was bled directly out of the same jet engine pushing the plane forward at 550 miles per hour. Hot, compressed engine air, cooled and piped straight to your seat. That process has its own quiet engineering story, and it is wilder than anything happening with the wings. Hit subscribe if you want to know exactly how the air in your lungs at 38,000 feet got there. We're just